At midnight mass, we heard the sound of the song of the angels praising God and announcing peace because the glory of God, his Son, had come down to brighten the darkness of earth's night. In the heavenly light of the angelic hosts, the shepherds were told of a sign lying in a manger. And they went to see the baby, and with Mary and Joseph, they worshiped him. Today, we have the second group of visitors to Bethlehem, the Magi. And they are the ones that Matthew speaks of in his gospel. And they come to Christ without the light of a heavenly revelation, but by their own careful observation of times and seasons. When they come to Jerusalem, the chief priests and the scribes confirm what they have already begun to understand, that the Messiah is to be born in Bethlehem. But oddly, the priests and the scribes, the stewards of divine mysteries, do not accompany the wise men on their way. Instead, Herod sends them to unwittingly spy out the territory of the new king so that later he can destroy him. And when they go forward, they see the star once more and are filled with joy. My friends, everyone who persists in the search for truth knows something of that joy. But the joy of these men leads them to see the child and find that after all, it is God who has seen them and known them and has called them to be his. And opening their treasures, they get to the heart of who Jesus is, pointing to his definitive triumph over sin through his eventual priestly suffering. The journey of the wise men is important for us who proclaim Christ in a world which is no longer motivated by Christian revelation. This is partly because the feast or solemnity of the Epiphany is a celebration of the universality of the people of God renewed in Christ. Traditionally, the wise men were shown as being different racial types, representing the three branches of humanity descended from Noah's sons, all called to belong to the church. Devotion to the Magi has been said to originate from the so-called Dark Ages to show the inclusion of the Germanic tribes in the church, each representing a different people, such as we see on the walls of San Apollinare Nuevo in Ravenna, built by King Theodoric. All are called to come to Christ. But there is another universality the Magi show us. It is more than where they come from or who they represent that makes the Magi so important for us. They show us that it is not just those who are the unworthy recipients of divine revelation who are called, but those who, by the light of reason, have not lost the divine image imprinted on them in creation. It is not just those who have some sort of experience of faith, those who have a natural interest in religion, an affinity with prayer and worship who are called to worship Jesus. He is Lord also of those who have no religious roots, those who in our secular culture search for what is good, true, and beautiful. Because, my friends, Christ is available to all. Whether we're waiting for him or have not yet responded to the call, he has come for all. Whether our journey to him is a response to heavenly light given through baptism and confirmation and sustained in the Eucharist? Or is the result of looking honestly at our world and refusing to flinch from the deeper questions? He calls all to make their way to him with great joy, or as St. Paul teaches in his letter to Timothy, it is the divine will that all men be saved and come to the knowledge of the truth. What can we learn from this journey of the Magi if we're to encourage others to make their way to Jesus and to find in him their true goal? First, to encourage every truthful inquiry, every search for purpose and for meaning. There may not always have been a star to lead us to the manger, but everything true is an echo of the Word through whom all things were made. Second, we should not misuse the Scriptures, as King Herod did, for his own ends, but to present the truth of the gospel faithfully in its entirety, even when it costs us greatly. The revelation we have received is not ours to control. We are its stewards. And like John the Baptist, have to point to the fulfillment of God's promise, not to ourselves. And thirdly, as the gifts the wise men offer point so powerfully to who Christ is, so must we be ready for those who come to Christ to pass beyond our experience of him and to get to the heart of his mystery while we are still floundering. That, of course, is the usual experience of every preacher, priest, and teacher of the faith. We often look at you at the pews and are overwhelmed by your goodness, your fidelity, your faith. At the end of the gospel, however, the very last line is something I want to discuss briefly today. You heard our deacon say, and having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed for their country by another way. The Venerable Fulton Sheen, commenting on this verse, reminds us that no one who encounters Christ can ever return to their former way. And it really begs us the question, and it makes us ponder in our hearts, have we encountered Christ? I mean, it's a very interesting question, because the challenge for us is that if we have encountered Christ, we must be changed. We cannot continue. I think St. Paul so well puts it, the old has passed, behold the new has come. These men were warned in a dream, and they listened to the message of God. We hear this so much in the Christmas season, don't we? When we think of the Annunciation, the angel of the Lord appeared unto Mary, and she conceived. But she said, let it be done unto me according to thy word. She was faithful. We hear the story of St. Joseph, don't we? Joseph had a dream. He was going to divorce his wife quietly, silently, lovingly. The angel, the dream, God tells him, don't do this. Take Joseph and Jesus the Christ into your home. Love him. And he woke up and he was obedient. The wise men were obedient. They were changed by their encounter. And we don't know what happened to them. The story ends there for them, for us. But the question is this: does the story end there for us? Everyone here would tell me they encountered Christ in their baptism, but if it was when you were 3 weeks old, 4 weeks old, that was a long time ago for some of us. I speak from experience. I have the white hair to prove it. But we must have encounters with Christ all the time. It's not a one of and done. Yes, our salvation is a one of and done in the sense that we're changed in baptism. But our encounters with Christ are meant to change us. You see, Christ needs you. Without your hands, without your voice, without your love, the world will remain in a rather dark state. So we have to ask ourselves in this new year, this new decade, will we be changed by our encounter with Christ? And so I ask you to pray for an encounter of change. An encounter in which you can see perhaps finally with eyes of faith what Christ desires to do for you. That you can see what needs to change in you. That you can have the courage to step back from the sin that may control you. The habits that are weakening your ability to love. Christ demands change. I think that's why sometimes our church is not entirely full, because people don't like that. It makes them uncomfortable. And when we're uncomfortable, we stay home. You are here. For that I'm intensely thankful. But God wants your heart. He wants your life. He wants your love. He wants it so bad that he sent himself, God the Son, to brighten the light of your darkness, to change it into light. So on this incredible feast of the Epiphany, let us have an Epiphany. I think of that ad we used to have. Oh, I could have had a V8. I hate tomato juice. It doesn't work for me. It was a good ad. I remember it after 20 or 30 years. But let's not be the guy or the gal that missed it. We saw the brightness. We had a flash of belief. And then the star went away. Instead, let this incredible Christ child of Bethlehem come down from God, inspire us so that he can bring us back to God, so that our love can grow and flourish, and even in the darkness of this fading world, we can be men and women, boys and girls, people of hope, because God has pierced our own darkness and challenged us by his light. Remember, it only takes a spark to get a fire going. We just have to blow on that spark a little bit. It's like lighting the incense before Mass. Sometimes it's hard. But we have to do it. We have to be it. Christ needs your hands and your heart to save the world.